Greetings and welcome to this edition of my three-part interview with Rubacek on the topic of artificial intelligence. On this weekly podcast known as Faith to Live By, where I explore current events from a biblical and prophetic perspective so we as God's children can know how He wants us to respond. I'm your host and truth advocate. My name is Pam Christian. Artificial intelligence is a topic I've been following for quite some time. It seems the topic has become highly sensitive at this point in time. I read an article by Terry Wu in Epoch Times dated September 7th, 2024, with the headlines, How the United States Government's Stake in Intel Will Affect Tech Race with China. I really want you to read this article for yourselves, so I've provided a link in the show notes, but let me share a few excerpts from it with you now. It reads, quote, "The federal government's move to take a 10% stake and become the largest shareholder in chip company Intel in August raised some eyebrows among investors and observers. California-based Intel, once the leading manufacturer of microchips, has for years struggled to keep up with its competitors in an industry critical to ensuring the United States' continued technological and military dominance. While the government's ownership is passive or non-voting, it will still have some influence over the company. Some have suggested that the deal amounts to government meddling in the private sector or even signals that the nation is moving away from a free market to state capitalism. Trump administration officials have pushed back on characterizations, likening the move to socialism, saying the agreement will boost United States leadership in semiconductors. The deal forms part of a broader trend as Washington steps up its effort to win the United States-China tech race, experts told the Epoch Times. Now, let me interject here. The fact that Washington has identified the need to win China over the tech race is why I have titled this three-part series, AI is the arms race of our day. Like it or not, we are in an international technological race, and it certainly seems the United States is playing catch-up with China. This is something we need to keep a watch on. Additionally, with the dark side of artificial intelligence, which we began exploring last week in mind, listen to what Clay Clark from Reawaken America and the Thrive Time show, whom I hope to have back on my show as a guest real soon, but listen to what he published with this headline with his September 7th podcast, quote, Artificial Intelligence Girlfriends. Artificial intelligence has much stranger ideas about sexual romantic relationships than any human culture on Earth. They are changing the sexual romantic relationship very quickly. Then the article references Yuval Noah Harari, whom the globalists refer to as their prophet. The headline is more than enough for me, but if you want to hear more about this dark side of AI, you'll find the link in the show notes. Also in the headlines this week, I read, quote, Big Tech's AI Bible is going viral, yet it's anything but holy, end quote. This is so disturbing. People who don't know the Bible or God or about the Christian faith will easily be deceived. This points out how very important it is in our day for us to make disciples. You know, years ago when the internet was first taking off, I made a point of buying a full set of Encyclopedia Britannica. My husband made fun of me and has complained about moving and storing them all these years, but I wanted to have a trustworthy source for historical questions. I suggest you make a point of getting several Bibles and or notating several trustworthy online sites so you can direct people to truth. We are on the verge of a great harvest of souls where we will encounter people who need to have resources they can trust. Let them start with you. And don't forget my book series written specifically for skeptics and seekers. So with all these headlines and more, you can see why I've stated that it seems this is the time where this whole topic and warnings about artificial intelligence seem to be a focus God wants us, His children, to have. Now, before I bring Kay back on with part 2 of our conversation about artificial intelligence, I want to be sure you know to get your name in on the reservation list for our upcoming tour of Greece in April 2026. We want to get a group of about 30 people signed up because this size group is best for this type tour, and the more people who sign up, the less the trip costs each of us. Some who previously signed up have had to let me know that their plans changed, which means we have more spots available now, which we definitely want to fill up. At this point, it's just a matter of putting your name in on the reservation list with your final confirmation in the next month or so. If you've been thinking about joining us on our Greece tour, now is the time to sign up to assure your place. And since some spots have opened up, why not ask some of your friends and family to also register so you can all travel together as part of this Christian tour group. The tour is called The Footsteps of the Apostle Paul because we'll be visiting many of the places he preached, which will really allow the historical events of our faith to come alive in our hearts. To be sure you are on the reservation list, send me an email to faithtoliveby@PamelaChristianMinistries.com. Put the word Greece in the subject line and place all of your contact detail in the body of the email, along with the total number of people in your party. Get that to me right away and expect a reply so we can confirm your reservation and learn of any special needs or requests you may have. If you didn't get a chance to write down what I just shared, I'll review it again later in the program, but please don't wait to reserve your place. We need to have a minimum number confirmed for the trip to even take place, and I'm praying for the maximum number of 30 since this makes the best experience for everyone. Now, I bring you part 2 of my 3-part interview with Kay Rubacek. If you didn't hear part 1, I strongly advise you to stop this episode and listen to part 1 before listening to the second part of our extended conversation. Also, to learn more about Kay and her unique qualifications, refer to the information in the show notes. Are you aware of the story that just broke this week? In fact, it was August 27th of 2025, about the parents of a 16-year-old, a young boy by the name of Adam Rainey. The parents are suing OpenAI and the CEO, Sam Altman, alleging that ChatGPT contributed to their son's suicide, including advising him on methods of how to commit suicide and offering him help on drafting his first suicide note. I mean, this brings chills to me even as I share it.
I know. Unfortunately, there's too many of these cases, and they're not covered enough. Um, the the suicide rates for 10 years old to 24-year-olds, which is an unbelievably young age when you think of a 10-year-old being driven to that type of self-harm. Those rates have increased about 60% from 2007 to 2021. Now that is prior to COVID, and it's not the recent time. The figures haven't shrunk, but if you just look at that period of time, that is the big period of time when the algorithms really came into play and into the lives of those youths. That's when the brain is in such a heightened state of development between 11 to 15 years old. It's soaking in everything and it's forming what it believes and thinks, and but we're filling it with very narrow viewed, filtered algorithms. And so if a child is feeling uncomfortable or considering something really harmful and they can't trust a human being and they're trusting an AI chatbot, it's a really scary situation because they probably really believe that. It's really different to an adult. An adult has a bit more, the brain was formed pre-algorithms. So it was formed with human reactions and interactions and fights and emotions. But these youth are living in a box there. So yes, these cases, I'm concerned. I'm greatly concerned that these will continue to grow, and I'm really following the result of this lawsuit because I think it's really important, and I do think that the loneliness epidemic that we see, especially in the youth today, is not about screen time so much. Yes, we can always reduce screen time, but we watched a lot of television in our youth. I sure did. But the density and the intensity of the information that we had and the hyper focus and hyper personalization has made this younger generation the most loneliest in all of our human history. They're lonelier than seniors. It's really, really sad. We need to help them.
I appreciate what you said earlier about when I was a child and also when I was a parent. I mean, yes, the television was a sort of a babysitter from time to time. But it wasn't as intimate, it wasn't as personal, it wasn't as private as the screens are on handheld devices today. And I think that's the danger. What are some of the things that we can do? I mean, I think in terms of a lot of people I know, in fact, a girlfriend of mine was just telling me a story about how a friend of hers was out at a restaurant and there was, I think, five children and a mother and a father, and everybody was on their personal handheld device instead of interacting around the dinner table. And he had the gumption, and I'm really proud of him, to actually correct this family on his way out of the restaurant, explaining that not everybody even has a family. The fact you have a family is a tremendous blessing. Don't squander the opportunity to interact as a family. And it seems to me this has been the advice for a while to try to help get our society back on track is to really rectify the family unit. What input do you have on that, especially as it comes to the topic we're discussing today and the threat for the loss of our youth?
Well, going back to communism, the first target of communism's sure they want to abolish private property, but they want to destroy the family. The family is the core unit of our society. And of course we have the structures of faith and the church, and we have all these systems of faith, but within just the whether it's in secular society, it is the family unit. And it's interesting that we don't choose our families. Who chooses our families? Right? When a mother conceives, that's a blessing that no scientist can explain how that miracle happens of life. So we don't choose our families, and I think that's already something really telling, is there's a reason that you're in the family that you're in. And no family's perfect because we're here to improve ourselves, aren't we? So we're not in heaven here. So we're improving. And so communist targets the family because that is the roadblock to full control over a society. A family will protect you from a totalitarian state. And that's why communism first, in every country where they came in, they targeted and destroyed the family. With the Cultural Revolution in China, they made children sometimes physically destroy their parents, publicly humiliate them, disassociate from them, and put the party above their family. And the youth were trained to see to call the party their mother or their father. And that's when you get to that level, then the human beings have no protection. All they have is the state telling them what to do, say, believe, and it has full control. So the other side of this is that I've done a lot of studies on brainwashing, and there's been amazing studies that were done after World War II and during the Korean War, and my own studies of interviewing survivors of brainwashing and tremendous torture. One of the strongest things that protected them, those who were able to come through on the other side, was having a strong family unit. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have two parents and or two kids. It just means that someone on earth is worth living for. That is proven to get people through some of the most horrific things that we can barely even imagine. So I really, we talk about strengthening community, but strengthening family is everything. It is everything. And with relationships with our children these days, we have to understand where they're at. We really cannot look at their youth as we look back on our youth, because what has changed in the past 20 years is not the same generational gap that happened between our great grandparents and our parents, or our grandparents and us. It is probably like it's like going from the horse and cart straight to an electric car, or a self-driving autonomous vehicle. That's the type of scale. So I find that a lot of the older generations, I hear them lament and say, oh, these young kids, they're stuck on their phone. They don't, they're not paying attention, this and that. They've got these strange looks on their face. You really got to step into their shoes. This is what has been informing and forming their brains. And the education system is only trying harder to implement AI learning from kindergarten to 12. That's what the federal government is now funding, extra funding for AI training for students and teachers from kindergarten to 12. But AI is basically not using your brain. It's about giving your brain functions to a robot. So we need to teach kids to think, but for that we have to communicate with them and find ways to communicate with them, understanding that they're in a very different stage to us when we were growing up.
And you speak of kindergarten through 12th grade. That sounds just horrible in and of itself, but in reality, it happens at a much younger age. I see parents all the time allowing their children to have a handheld device, usually a cell phone, that the child is expertly scrolling through as a toddler. And again, I know I did as a parent. I used television as a form of a babysitter to occupy my children from time to time. But you're right, it was in a room where other people could walk through, could interact, could comment on what was being viewed. It's not the same with these handheld devices. My concern is really serious for this generation that you're talking about that has been raised on these algorithms where their own self-worth, more or less, is coming by how many friends do they have on social media and so on. Would you address that a little bit more to give us some hope about how we can actually escape all of this and what we must do?
Yes, yes. We have to help the kids to breathe again. They are not just looking at screens, but are getting so much intensity of information. There has never been a smarter generation. They have the answer to everything at the push of a button, but they have never been lonelier and more disassociated from reality. So it's just such an extreme. So it's not a matter of my biggest advice to people, and I've got two children that I've raised through this generation as well. And my biggest advice is to avoid judgment and really, they say it's a bit of a cliche, be a friend, but we want to help them respect their elders and to respect themselves, respect God. We have to meet them where they're at and really listen to them and not judge them, because that is just the hardest thing, is that they're not using the language that we speak. They've created their own language. They are feeling constant pressure, invisible pressure that it's very hard for them to explain. They don't have words for these things. They don't think of algorithms. They don't think of big data. They just think, oh my gosh, there's a million things that have gone online and I didn't see and I didn't respond. No one's going to like me tomorrow. They're going to have migraines. They're going to have anxiety, panic attacks, and they're going to be freaking out. And if you ask them to explain that, they don't have the language for it because they don't know. It's an invisible digital world, a digital body that they're interacting with. So if we can help them find language, if we can help them express themselves and find ways to listen, it's really rebuilding a relationship with a generation that doesn't know how to talk about what they're going through and that we didn't experience either. But we've got a bit more life experience and discernment that we can share with them. But I think we have to be really kind. I think we have to be really kind and caring, and they will see that because that's human. That's something that no AI can really give. And what they're ultimately looking for is that love and care. And we can give them that without judgment. The AI is giving them the answers they want to hear without judgment. And they're going to that because they feel seen. They feel like their friends are not seeing them. They feel that their family's not seeing them. The society's not seeing them. Uh, so it's kind of getting that opportunity to take them, maybe take them out for a coffee and just happen to leave the phones aside, take them out for a walk and get through the awkward stages because you cannot expect things to just overnight switch and change. Their brains are growing and developing, and we need to really treat them with a lot of love and care and imagine what they're going through with that algorithm that says anything they want to hear and never makes them feel bad about themselves, even to the point where if they say they want to end their life, the algorithm says, okay, let me help you. That's the type of friendship
Mhm.
that they're developing because they're not finding it anywhere else. So we need to replace that with the real human connection and help them out. But when we get a sense of like, oh, there's trouble here, then we need to pull them the other direction, not give them the instructions like the AI does without any discernment. But we want to give them the instructions to take a breath, take their hand, sit together, whatever it takes to just let them feel that they have love and care.
And I agree that the emphasis needs to be on the children because that's our future generations. But it starts with the adults. It starts with the adults being willing to be disciplined themselves from the screen time that they are spending for the sake of the children. And this all reminds me of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, human needs. And one of the strongest is for us to be able to belong, as you said, to have something worth living for. And this is what, unfortunately, ChatGPT especially is contributing toward is making these small, impressionable children feel a sense of belonging. And this is where the parents must step in. This is where the schools, our education systems must have teachers that step in. We're on kind of a wild frontier right now when it comes to artificial intelligence. And we could be building a Frankenstein. And I believe in many ways we are building a Frankenstein that's going to turn against us if we don't get a hold of it right away. I'm glad we've concentrated on children because I really think that's got to be the primary focus. But now let's move into society and government, litigation, some of these other areas where we really need, as adults, to get behind what we need to do to have this governed appropriately. I agree with you. There's a lot of great things that come from artificial intelligence, but we are building a Frankenstein unless we rein this in.
We're in a difficult situation. The government has basically called this getting control of AI and building super intelligence, or at least general intelligence, as a Manhattan Project, as an arms race to beat China. And that means it seems that anything goes. And I'm concerned that I mean, they already have agreed with they're not regulating AI. They're not holding the businesses and the developers to account. The billionaires are basically deciding the where how AI is being used. They're deciding the shape and design of this Frankenstein, but they're not clear what will happen because they don't know exactly what they're building. They have different goals. They don't know if they will be able to give their goals to AI. AI is not like, so a calculator doesn't have a goal. It responds to the 1 plus 1. AI has a goal at the moment. ChatGPT has a goal to respond to the user and give you the best answer possible. What if that goal changed to manipulate you to buy XYZ? What if that goal changed to make you stay at home and never work again? The goals could be anything. And the people deciding those goals are not communicating with us in society. They are communicating likely with the federal government, but regulations are basically being bypassed because it's happening too fast. We're building the digital version of an atomic bomb that can wipe out all of civilization. And this is no conspiracy theory. This has been written in books by the AI futurists and AI coders for decades, or at least the last decade. They've written books about all the possible scenarios of AI and where it takes us. And I don't think any of them are particularly good. And most of them, they agree, are not good, and certainly not good for all of humanity. So I'm extremely concerned that this is a higher priority than human value right now, because it's been put into the realm of war.
A very frightening reality. In Kay's words, AI is being put into the realm of war, specifically the war of technological dominance, chiefly between the United States and China, all while the globalists seek to overpower all sovereign nations for their own agenda. In many ways, people are being relegated to mere property, chattel to be managed by those who are knowingly or unknowingly cooperating with evil. Gratefully, however, God is at work among humanity, whom He has created in His image to relate with Him and find our true value in Him. Both last week and this week, Kay cited loneliness as a primary reason why people so willingly embrace artificial intelligence and the perceived relational connection AI mimics. As Kay said, AI is being trained to tell us what we want to hear, which doesn't mean it's the truth. We are fallible human beings with ego and bias. What we want to hear and what we are training AI to tell us is not always the objective, verifiable truth. With that in mind, it's important we first understand how our wants in life are determined and what is trustworthy. What each of us want in life includes both innate human needs such as food, shelter, safety, and psychological needs that include social connections, belonging, and acceptance. However, for each of us, there is also personal wants and desires that are determined by our education and experiences that form our values, morals, and religious beliefs. During my interview with Kay, I mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is a graphic created by Abraham Maslow, an American psychologist best known for his pyramid of 5 levels of human need to explain human motivation. At the bottom or base of the pyramid are psychological needs. Above that are safety needs, which would include food and shelter. Above that are belonging and love needs. Then, above that, are personal esteem needs. And the very top of the pyramid is self-actualization. While this provides a decent understanding of basic human needs, it does not take into consideration any personal values, morals, or spiritual realities. As it turns out, Maslow was an atheist. His mother was apparently a superstitious woman who severely punished Maslow for even minor misbehavior by threatening him with God's wrath. Maslow developed an intense distrust of religion and was proud to consider himself an atheist. Obviously, depending upon how we were raised and what we were taught to value and our personal life experiences, our wants in life are influenced. Now, I want to make a personal comment that I firmly believe is true, and I ask you to think it through and decide if you agree. I believe where our world once intentionally esteemed social, cultural, and moral standards, allowing the people of the world a sense of personal value and worth, in recent decades, these values have been intentionally and greatly reduced by forces and people who want to control and enslave us. Do you agree? I cite premarital sex, divorce, abortion, the promotion of all sorts of deviant sexual attractions and behaviors, the popularity and acceptance of gender identity creating more than simply 2 biological sexes, and the rejection of the existence of God as the creator, as evidence that, by and large, human beings have been programmed to devalue themselves. My regular listeners know I am a firm believer in the Christian faith that acknowledges human beings are created by God in His image for the purpose of enjoying Him as our Heavenly Father and enjoying one another as brothers and sisters all part of God's family. We are created in three parts: our natural body and our eternal and supernatural soul and spirit. Our soul is our mind, will, emotions, and unique personality. Our spirit is that part of us which allows us to communicate with God, who is spirit, and other spiritual beings. Satan was once known as Lucifer, described in the Bible as a seal of perfection and a bright and shining one. He was considered the most beautiful and intelligent of all God's creations. He was a high-ranking angel associated with perfection, wisdom, beauty, and potentially music, though his specific role was that of a principal angel serving God. Whether it was just his pride that got the better of him, or jealousy of humanity whom God uniquely created for special relationship with him, or both, at one point Lucifer decided to rebel against God, seeking to dethrone God and overpower God and take 1/3 of the heavenly angels with him. The moment he rebelled against God, without delay, God cast Lucifer and his followers out of heaven, limiting them to the earthly realm where they can influence human beings to willingly choose to reject God, which by default means to follow in Satan's evil ways. Now, before I go further, if you are one who questions why the Bible is worthy of being a source of truth about Satan and all kinds of things, let me suggest you get my book, Examine Your Faith, Finding Truth in a World of Lies. In it, I compare the Bible to other main documents of religious authority, and I compare and contrast the main world religions so you can decide the matter of truth for yourself. With the origin of all creation explained, you will likely see how it is that all the people of all time and history of this world are living in the ancient spiritual battle of good versus evil, and how each and every individual has the opportunity to choose truth and life, or lies and death. It's a matter of our free will and our properly understanding truth. Satan and his followers have gotten a hold of the people who promote globalism and have brought them to believe they can displace God and rule this world according to their desires, according to what they want. As the godless globalists know, the basis of what we want in life is determined by an interplay of innate human needs like food, safety, and social connection, combined with personal experiences, values, and passions. From their godless perspective, the globalists seek to exploit us at our most base human reality. Mel K., whom I recently had on my show, does an excellent job explaining the globalists' power structure and plan in her book titled Americans Anonymous, Restoring Power to the People One Citizen at a Time. You'll find a link in my associate Amazon account where you can get the book and support her and me at the same time. What they have done is to control our food, water, climate, health, our personal values, and a whole lot more, all while seeking to cripple us with fear that we cry out to them to rescue us. As Mel wrote, quote, they operate in a world where they confidently believe they are superior to the global population, who they might consider a peasant class, and they regularly skirt the laws or oversight that the rest of the citizens of humanity are bound by. They are a superclass or superior class who deem themselves the important thinkers and thought leaders of their time and are thus entitled to determine all aspects of human life and behavior to ensure that their power, privilege, and control be sustainable and appropriate to maintain order. End quote. They consider the rest of the world population as property and resources for them to own and manage. For those who are familiar with biblical end times prophecy, all of this is most plainly the spirit of Antichrist, who along with his promoters sets himself up to control humanity, a reality we can expect in the future, but not now. God has prophetically explained this is not the time for the Antichrist as explained in the Bible. Though that day will come, the enemy's efforts to accelerate God's timeline will never work, and instead will produce a greater influx of people to God's kingdom than ever before. Okay, now let's shift a bit to explore what's become known as the loneliness epidemic, which I believe has also been intentionally created by the globalists to make us more pliable in their plans to manipulate and control us. Harvard Graduate School of Education put out a study in October 2024 that includes several points worth noting. The United States Surgeon General Vivek Murthy placed a spotlight on America's problem with loneliness when he declared the issue an epidemic in the spring of 2023. Murthy explained in a letter that introduced an urgent advisory that loneliness is far more than just a bad feeling, and it represents a major public health risk for both individuals and society. Murthy also pointed out that although many people grew lonelier during the COVID-19 pandemic, about half of American adults had already reported experiences of loneliness even before that outbreak. In the Surgeon General's advisory, loneliness is described as a state of mind, a subjective, distressing experience that results from perceived isolation or inadequate meaningful connections, where inadequate refers to the discrepancy or unmet need between an individual's preferred and actual experience. End quote. What did we experience during the tyranny of COVID-19? We were forced to stay in our homes, not to gather in groups, not to attend church, to keep socially distanced, and to place visual barriers over our faces, while our leaders, who we wanted to be working in our own best interest, were actually exploiting all of our senses and actually impeding our health physically, emotionally, and mentally. Kay did an excellent job of explaining how we come to be lonely and how AI is perfectly poised by the globalists to fill that gap, even to the point of convincing us to end our own lives. And this brings me right back to the essential spiritual component of our human existence and how, just as the Bible says, the battle for our eternal soul and spirit is played out in our minds. The programming of our minds for what we believe to be true and the programming of our wants and desires have all been intentionally targeted by the enemy of God working through human beings whose minds have been corrupted. We must always remember we are not battling against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. A lot of the programming through the decades has come through radio, television, the internet, and online communications. Remember, Satan is called the prince of the power of the air. Ephesians 2:2. And of course this refers to his authority over spiritual forces that influence the world and humanity. It refers to the airwaves through which much of our communication comes. This phrase signifies Satan's dominion in the unseen, the spiritual atmosphere, or heavenly places where demonic spirits operate, influencing the disobedient. However, and this is so important, Satan's authority is subordinate to God and was decisively defeated by Jesus Christ at the cross. Those of us who are properly enlightened to truth can choose not to be influenced by Satan and his lies. And to make this happen requires we become intentional about being influenced by God and the truth. It is not enough to simply declare, I will not be influenced by Satan. The fact we live in a fallen world means we are subject to all the evil of the world every moment of every day. No, we must deliberately and intentionally choose to be associated with all that is good and true. The best way to do this is to immerse ourselves in God's Word, the Bible, which will allow us to not only understand how this world got into the evil mess it's in, but how and what we must do to rise above it and to take hold of the victory life Christ has already secured for us. While the Bible is tantamount There are other resources that you need to get a hold of, such as my book series or Kay's book, and also the article I found for you from Enough is Enough called Internet Safety 101, an AI Guide for Children and Teens. You'll find the link in the show notes. Also, listening to programs such as mine, where we work tirelessly to bring you truth and to help us all learn how to live in truth every day, even in this fallen world, is another way we can guard our minds. Sharing this podcast with others so more people are living in truth is also important, because the more of us raising the standard of truth, the less the enemy can advance, and, in fact, he will have to retreat. You won't want to miss part 3 of my interview with Kay Rubacek, where we will focus more on the solutions and remedies to the evils before us specific to artificial intelligence. You need to know what to do to help protect your family and your loved ones, and you can count on me to help you with this and all matters of living in the life-giving truth Christ died to give us. Now I ask you to please listen to my closing announcements and to take advantage of the many goods and services I bring you in an effort to at least cover the costs of this podcast. The first announcement clarifies more about the changes to our Greece tour scheduled for April 2026. If you haven't yet signed up to join us, please listen carefully and follow the instructions, because I really want every one of us who can to meet up in Greece. It may seem far off, but most people make plans for a significant vacation about a year in advance. So, if you haven't already expressed interest in traveling with us in April 2026, now is the time to do so. We want to have about 30 people total, because this size group works best for the specific tour I have in mind. We'll be walking the footsteps of the Apostle Paul. I'm using the time between now and October 2025 to determine if we have enough interest, and the trend indicates we definitely should. We have just about 30 people on the list now, but I'd like to have more, because when it comes to the actual day of making a commitment, things could have changed, and I want to be able to have at least 30 actually attend the tour. So, if you think you'd like to be part of the Faith to Live By Christian tour with me in Greece during April 2026, now is the time to get your name and number in your party on the list. There's no obligation at this point. You're just expressing your interest. Attendees need to arrange their own air travel to and from the Athens International Airport. To get your name on the list, send an email to faithtoliveby@PamelaChristianMinistries.com with the word Greece in the subject line. In the body of the email, provide your name, contact information, and number of people you expect to be in your party. This will place your name on the interested in attending list, but does not obligate you in any way. It merely assures you have first right of refusal when down payments are due. If you didn't get the details written down that I just shared, simply visit my Beyond the Podcast page using the link in the show notes. If you like what you hear from me with this podcast, I highly recommend my book series, my award-winning blog, and consider signing up for my certificate course in apologetics. My aim with that course is to help people learn how not only to use apologetics to share truth with others, but to help Christian leaders incorporate apologetics into their respective ministries, so more Christians are learning how to share their faith. You can learn more by using the link in the show notes. For now, I offer my weekly podcasts, my blog, and bi-monthly e-newsletter at no cost. And certainly I have hard costs associated with doing all I do. If you've been blessed by my work and would like to help my work reach others, why not consider partnering with me? For as little as $10 a month, you can become a partner. Then together we can reach even more people for Jesus. Simply visit my Pamela Christian Ministries homepage and then click on the Give button at the top menu bar. Or if you prefer, you can go directly to the Give page using the link in the show notes. To become a partner, you can use my PayPal or Venmo account, but you will also see other ways you can support my work on that page. Whether you choose to become a monthly partner, give a one-time donation, purchase my books and products from my web store, or support my affiliate sponsors, anything you can do to help me continue this work would be greatly appreciated. And as always, your prayers and telling others about me and my ministry work is much needed. When it comes to my selection of affiliate sponsors, I first look for Christian-owned and operated businesses, and I make a point of personally using the products or services so I can fully endorse them. I seek sponsors that offer products or services you can get via the internet worldwide, and I specifically consider what is common to most people universally. So you'll find health, beauty and wellness products through Dr. Zelenko's Z-Stack supplements and from QE Strong. Dr. Zelenko's Z-Stack supplements are truly amazing and are available to my listeners for a 5% discount per purchase or a 10% discount for a monthly subscription using the promo code FTLB. You may have heard my interview with Rob Renee about QE Strong. Discover the benefits of quantum energy to overcome all sorts of ailments. Visit QEstrong.com and use the promo code FTLB at checkout to receive your discount. Then my newest affiliate I'm really excited to bring you is Q Streaming. That's CUE Streaming Television. People with United States addresses can get over 3,000 channels, including live TV with streaming television without a contract. Get all of your local networks and favorite movie and sports and pay-per-view channels for about half of what cable costs. See the video promo link in the show notes to learn more. Affiliate sponsors only provide financial support to me when you purchase what they offer. So before you support Amazon or any other retailer, if I offer what you're looking for, please purchase through me. When it comes to special occasions, birthdays, or Christmas gifts, consider my books, jewelry, CDs, and more from my web store or any of the affiliate goods and services I offer. When you purchase from my web store, be sure to use the promo code TRUTH, TRUTH, to receive a 20% discount. Again, you'll find all the links in the show notes. If you like the content and resource material I bring you with this podcast, you'll find much more by connecting with me through my blog. In fact, my blog has been awarded 2 unsolicited awards for Christian content. And I'm also very active on social media. I can cover much more on social media than I can with this weekly podcast. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to my complimentary bi-monthly e-newsletter. I offer encouragement, special offers, and one of my signature recipes with each and every edition. Yep, I'm a foodie and I love to entertain, which is why Faith, Family, Friends, and Food is a bonus segment of my bi-monthly e-newsletter. To receive even more, please be sure to check out my dedicated podcast listeners page, Beyond the Podcast. Here's where we can connect exclusively and you can download complimentary devotionals, resources, and more. On that page, I also ask you to help me learn more about you and what you want by completing the form visible once you scroll down that page. And something that is very easy for you to do and would mean a lot to me is for you to rate, subscribe, or comment on this podcast according to what your preferred listening platform allows. You know how it works. The more likes and subscriptions to this podcast, the more opportunity we have to expand the listening audience. And that means we can reach more people with the gospel message of Jesus while helping people learn how to better apply their Christian faith. I hope you'll join me next week and tell your friends and family to listen right here on Faith to Live By, where we learn how to gain spiritual victory over life's issues. Until next week, I'm Pam Christian, asking you to remember Christ died for us. The least we can do is live for Him.